Good morning, everyone. Internet et al., particularly those of you watching live on Facebook. It's Monday again, in case you guys weren't aware of what exact day it is, and I'm certainly sympathetic to that. And we're here with another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. I'm Adam Smith with Just the Tips Coaching, and with us, as always, is Coach and Marketing Director Jen Waybauer. Good morning, Jen.
Morning.
How was your weekend?
Weird,
Yeah.
like all of them lately. Yeah. Yep.
And we have a very special guest with us, and it's been a while since we've had somebody in the real estate community on the show, so we're pretty excited about this. But Angela Knight, Angie, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, it is our pleasure. And we've actually been on our little video conference for a while here before going live, so we've kind of had a discussion about, what to discuss on this particular episode of our podcast and what kinds of things we should be discussing. Obviously, the world is in a state that's a little abnormal, to say the least, so we haven't really been focusing on our normal content. Mark, good morning. Thank you for joining us. We're getting some comments coming in, so bear with us, Angie. We'll try to deal with those as they come in and answer questions as they come in, etc. But Angie, give us a little bit of background about you. Who you are, what you do, where you operate, how you got into real estate. Give us the lowdown on you.
Sure. Long story. I'm in my 29th year. I actually went right out of high school, and my first job was as a receptionist at Legend Better Homes and Gardens eons ago. I'll probably date myself a couple of times. I've spent my career really doing pretty much anything that has to do with real estate. I've been an assistant, I've been in management, I've been on teams, I've been an individual. But most recently, my career has brought me a few years ago to joining up with my current partner, Ryan Fagan. And we are associated with Keller Williams, and through that, we also do expansion. So he heads up our Michigan office. So we have an office in Detroit. And then we've also got our Denver office, which is our hub. And just a couple of months ago, we actually opened up a satellite location in Conifer. I have sold all over Denver, anywhere from Livermore, which is way, way, way northern Colorado, all the way down to, Monument, and then up and down the 285 and I-70 corridor. That's really my current focus. Is I'm highly referral. I've done this for so long that pretty much most of my business is referral. So I go where my clients need me to go, and it involves a lot of mileage and a lot of time, but that's the business that we're in.
That's how it works. Yep.
So that's the short story.
Okay, and we're certainly going to be big supporters of that. Obviously, the end focus for everybody involved in Just the Tips, whether it's somebody who's been on the show or participates in our roundtables or has read my book or is in our coaching program or has seen me speak at a conference, etc. The end goal is to have a strict repeat and referral business. So we do make certain concessions to ensure that that happens, like going all over the place. But boy, doesn't it beat shelling out thousands, tens of thousands to lead generation sources. I don't want to say any that we, really dislike on our program, but it rhymes with Zillow.
Right.
So those kinds of things. But yeah, we certainly expect for everybody to eventually have a repeat and referral business that would continue to grow if they disappeared for a month. If you want to go sit on the beach for a month, by all means, and that you've put enough tactile work, enough systems, enough personnel in place that it just goes. It just does its thing. All right. So, Angie, we did discuss the fact that obviously Just the Tips focuses on lead generation and who our audience is. And I think that a lot of this activity, particularly, I don't know that it's necessarily well defined as lead generation for somebody who's been at this nearly 3 decades, but prospecting, staying in front of people, relationship building, relationship furthering, those kinds of things. What does that look like for you over the last month? What kinds of activities have you been focusing on in the Corona real estate era?
Well, actually, oddly enough, we do lead generation as well, but we do it all internal. We don't pay Zillow or anything like that. But we look at it as being advantage, in both ways. We want to offer up our expertise and what we pride ourselves in as far as, being a resource for information, because that's really what we do. So we do both, but as far as with my base, which is really my past clients and my friends and my family, more or less, we've done a few little things, like we created some little mini and individual hand sanitizers, and so we kind of mailed those out to some of our clients. We're leaving them at our listings, things like that. But really, my business, other than kind of having to work around the new guidelines and respect what the orders that have been put forth, my business hasn't really changed. I mean, I'm still putting listings on the market. I still have buyers that we're trying to work through virtual tours. We're actually taking advantage of a little bit of this downtime, because it's slowed down a little bit, to really create some new campaigns and get some data out there and plan parties. I've actually, we do a small client parties, appreciation parties every month, and we've had to put those on hold because of the no gathering. But at the same time, I mean, I've even been working with your marketing guru on potentially doing some wine parties with her, because she has another business. So these connections and really staying out there and just maintaining connections with everybody is really the basis of referrals. I mean, you just gotta stay in front of them. It doesn't really matter what you do. I think you do, you find what works for you. And for me, I love the business that I've built. I love that most of my clients, and I can say there probably aren't any that I wouldn't call a friend. You just, it's a relationship based business. And so it's maintaining that relationship as you would with anybody.
Okay. And what does that mean for you? What kind of tactical and tractional activities are you engaging in to make sure that you're staying in front of people these days?
I'm pestering people.
Okay.
I like to talk. So sending texts, making phone calls, just reaching out, or as I'm running across things, I have some clients that they're constantly always looking for real estate, whether they're an investor or whether they're looking for that mountain home, the winter home or the summer home, or, a retirement home. I mean, so I come across things, what, hey, did you guys see this? And I always try and do fun things as well. We try and engage on, just random posts. Like a few years ago on election day, I posted, what was the White House value? No, does anybody ever think about it? But it's actually a house. So it has a house value. And it was interesting to me to find that kind of information. So really just making sure that everybody knows that we're here, and we're here no matter whether you're actively seeking out real estate property or whether you just are thinking of something random. Like I had a client reach out a week or so ago, and his escrow went up, and he's like, how can I contest this? And I'm like, you can't really, because you've got your taxes and your insurance, and as those go up and go down, or they flex, so is your escrow. They've got a balance. So, but he asked that question. He knew to come to us to ask that question, because we've made ourselves available as that kind of a resource.
That's good. And we actually do talk about that at some point in our program, although I can't figure out where, and maybe Jen will help me figure this part out. But there is a difference between being a trusted resource and a trusted authority. And for those of you that have reached that first level where people are calling you, seeking out that kind of content, those kinds of answers, great. Good for you. You are light years ahead of everybody else in your particular industry, whatever that is. The next step, mind you, is to be that trusted authority. So literally whatever you say goes. So if somebody is calling Angie and asking when the time comes, and obviously now you can't, so you were absolutely right with your current client, how do I contest my taxable value? Not that you would want to, and 1 out of 100 times maybe it makes sense, but she's going to give that person step, here's what you do, and they're not going to ask. They're just going to do it because she's that trusted authority. And that's really the goal where you guys want to get to, is making sure that when you are that kind of a resource, that you have gone from trusted resource to trusted authority. So keep that in the back of your minds. And just because we're here, and with decades of experience under your belt, talk to us about your market. What are you seeing in the typical real estate arena due to COVID?
Well, I think, we started out the year that I really thought that our spring was going to be a repeat of a couple of years ago when we saw those multiple offers. I really felt like the influx of buyers came back in the market. And, last year we kind of had a pseudo balanced market because the buyers had dropped out. Even though our inventory was still low, we really, didn't have the buyers. So it was really hard to even use models that we've learned over the years, such as absorption rate and things like that. So we came out of the gate this year and it was fast and furious. And I think every offer I wrote from January through March, with the exception of one, was in a competing situation, which was crazy.
Wow.
And, and going high, 10, 12, 15 over asking. And, and so I think this kind of put just a stop and a halt. I don't think that it means that people are not still interested in buying or selling. It's more, there's a more important focus at this moment, and that's figuring out how we're going to navigate through what this new world looks like, and I kind of feel like we're on pause. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. I don't think that we're going to necessarily feel a huge impact from this in pricing or anything like that. And that's because there's so many other factors that, affect where the market is going to be. I hope that we continue on the process and that we can keep on slowly opening our state and our country, and that, real estate resumes itself, because I personally have clients that have to sell, have to buy. I mean, they're relocating. I've got one that's relocating to Texas for a job transfer. We had no choice. We have to put his house on the market. He's got to get out of here. So, we navigate around it. And I kind of tend to go with the flow. I mean, I don't like to be an alarmist. I like to be a realist. And so we've got to look at what is happening today, and we're going to address it happening today. 10 days from now, whatever's happening 10 days from now, we might have to make some adjustments. But I just kind of feel like we're just in a pause. I guess that's the best way I can explain it, is everybody's just kind of in this wait and see. And I don't think that's only with real estate. I think that is with every industry right now.
I'd say that that's true. And let's come back to this just a little deeper. So our audience knows you're in Colorado. That your market is likely Denver Metro. And the Colorado state government, and obviously a lot of what's going on with states being closed or opened, has been put on a state-by-state basis. And Colorado has had some really interesting twists and turns with the real estate industry and what is essential and what isn't essential. Can you give us a little insight over the last few weeks as to how that roller coaster ride has gone? I mean, if you know.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very fortunate. We work with a company that is on top of things, and they've been really great about informing us and keeping us straight. And, we've got our own legal counsel that are interpreting, and telling us what we should and shouldn't be doing. And really all I have to do is follow it, what I mean? So, but we've gone from being essential and really not having any of our duties curbed, I guess is a best way to put it, to saying, okay, well, now you're essential, but you're super restricted, and you can't show, and you can't do inspections, and you can't do appraisals. And then it went from there to now we can do anything that's under the contract, but we have to be within the guidelines of what's set forth, so wearing the mask and, sanitizing and not gathering and that kind of stuff. But, I think the biggest impact has been, how do you adjust to your marketing to be able to still get that exposure for your client? We, at Fagan Willis, we always have done Matterport 3D tours on all of our listings. So for me, when I put the listing on a couple of weeks ago up in Conifer, the one that has to relocate, I already had a Matterport. So it's easy. I mean, my virtual tour is there. You want to see the house, that's the second best thing there is, next to actually walking through the house. So, changing, your habits, and maybe you're going to have to do a little bit more for your clients than what you would have done in this kind of a lucrative market that we've been in for the last 10 years. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I feel like you just kind of have to go with the flow. We don't have a choice. And so you've got to use your mind and be creative. And that's what you're hired for. I mean, we all do marketing. This is what our, primary job is. It's just, what are we marketing?
Yeah, that's a true story. That it's job number one. I mean, literally, that's well, you have to have a wealth of knowledge, no matter what industry you're in. You've got to have a wealth of knowledge in real estate, for example, of contracts and listings and inspections and negotiations and objections and on and on. But none of that exists without generating leads.
Right.
So that marketing piece, yes, absolutely has to be priority one for every one of you watching. That is job number one. In fact, it's the only job. Really, I mean, the rest of it, you have transaction coordinators, LOAs, whatever the case may be. So that has to be priority number one. All right, Angie, without getting any more personal than you're comfortable with, tell us.
Oh boy.
Tell us how it's impacted you. I mean, I know just right off the bat you had been hiding out in the mountains, and that you came down to do the show with us. Yeah. You came back down to the plains here. So tell us what other kinds of impacts you're experiencing in your life, your work, etc.
As far as work, that's probably the least impact that I've seen, because it's easy, I mean, with electronics, to me, it's really easy to become virtual and still market and still reach out. I mean, I can still call, I can still text, I can still email, I can still post, I mean, all of those things are still accessible to me to maintain that connection. I do have 3 kids, and I have a husband. And so for us living in Bailey on DSL internet and having 3 kids now that we're homeschooling, 1st, 4th, and 6th grade, plus my husband is also a chef instructor for Escoffier. So he's homeschooling as well, his students. Right. So we literally, probably the biggest struggle is the internet, trying to navigate through how do we manage both of our businesses and our children and their schooling, and allow me, to get out of the house, because I don't like being stuck in my house at all. And thankfully I have my conifer office that I can run down there and, have some isolation, or if I want to come down to Denver, I can do that too, because I've got my office here. So, but figuring out how that looks, because my husband, he's, on the internet from 7 to 1 every day, doing his instruction, and he's actually baking and, actually doing instruction online for his students. So, probably that's been the hardest thing, the homeschooling. I'm not a teacher, and bless every teacher out there, because I'll tell you what, I'm going to kiss your feet when this fall starts and I can take my kids back to you. That's probably my biggest challenge.
That's well said. That's hard. Yes, and for everyone watching live or in syndication, yes, please treat the teachers well when this is over. I think we're all gaining a new respect for the amount of work that they do on a day-to-day basis.
Think about everything that they've had to put together for all of our kids. I mean, we've got 3 different platforms for our 3 kids, and I can't imagine how they're doing it for 30 students or 20 students in their class. And making adjustments. I mean, some kids need more help in other places. So I have a healthy appreciation. I already had one, but I have much more healthy appreciation for our teachers. I think they're very, they're kind of the low, the ones that are always left behind and not shown the appreciation that they deserve.
Yeah, I would say that's an understatement. Very, very true that is the nature of what is going on these days. So, and again, I know that you don't have a crystal ball. We discussed that. Mine is in the shop, so I can't be of any further help with anybody watching or give you or Jen any insight. But what do you foresee the gap between now and whatever the new normal is looking like for your business, for other sales businesses? Obviously, there's a lot of face-to-face stuff, but like this thing where we've got to be under contract, well, we have to have submitted an offer on a property in order to go view the property. That's got to change at some point. It's just so abnormal for normal real estate practices. And then obviously being able to get an inspection, an appraisal, going to the closing table.
Right.
I don't know, in my mortgage practice, it's probably been a solid month since the title companies we work with said,
Mhm.
"Don't come here. We don't need you. We'll
Yeah.
send you what you need to sign. You can send it back, no problem. But please do not come here."
Right.
So, what do you think this looks like? And the hypothetical, my understanding is that today we'll hear from the state of Colorado as to whether or not we are at the end of our shelter in place order, or if it's going to get extended, or what a a gradual return to the new normal is going to look like. How do you position yourself in that? And what do you think is going to occur in the coming weeks?
Well, again, I am right with you. My crystal ball has been broken for ages, and I don't think I'll ever get it repaired. I wish I could see what was going to happen. I think, Denver historically has been a very stable real estate market. It's weathered so many storms. Even 2008, we didn't get hit near as bad as most of the nation,
Oh,
and
not even close. Yeah.
recovered very, very quickly. So I don't know that other than just this pause, I don't know that I really feel like we're going to be necessarily hugely impacted in pricing or anything like that. I do think there's going to be a little bit of movement that's natural just because of, just because of the circumstances. If, we are going forward with what we think, and that's that we're going to be slowly opening, I kind of feel like we were primed for such a huge spring market that I think a lot of that will transfer to summer. And where we historically would see July being the second slowest 4 week period of the year, next to the last 2 weeks in December and first 2 weeks in January, I think July might be busy. I think we might see just this flow or maybe an extended fall market where we're going to be, a heavy, weird, 6 month period or 4 month, 4 to 6 month period of the year where we will get some sales going. And I think for me, it's just, I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever happens to hit the ground running. And, I've got all my clients that are waiting to see, and I'm ready to, reach out to them when the market seems like it's a good time for them. They're not under a position where they have to sell. Right now, I'm really advising let's wait a little bit and just let's see what shakes out in the next few weeks. And, if we can get them strategically in a better place, then that's never going to hurt. If they're in a place where they can wait, then let's wait. And I do that with any of my clients. I've had investors over the last, 5 years that have been making tons of money on rentals, and they keep on asking me every year, should I sell? Should I sell? If you don't have to, and you're not looking to liquidate and get out the money or invest it somewhere else, then keep on eating up that rental income. You might as well take advantage of it while it's there. So that's part of, advising the client for what's best for them and really taking a look at it. I think, it's anybody's game. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think that we're going to see a whole lot other than just some delay. And that's really how I feel about it.
So we talked about the fact that the people that are really good at what they're doing, that have been doing this for a long time, are taking good advantage of this time. We didn't use those specific words, but really still working. It's a little different right now, but focusing on systems and tactics and people, and kind of getting an opportunity to hit a reset button of sorts and have time to take a look at how your business is done. What kinds of changes should we be making? Do you think the real estate industry as a whole, not just what you're doing in your practice, but the real estate industry, finds that some of the changes that we're dealing with right now are things that should be permanent?
I don't know. I guess I'm going to answer that question both ways. I'll answer it both, whether it's just for me or for the industry. I don't think we can, because we are a personal business. It is a relationship
Oh, sure.
business. So being in front of somebody, having that face-to-face connection, even with all the technology and where we've gone in the last 20 years, I went through this period of, where everybody wanted to not talk. They wanted to do text. They wanted to do email. I've also seen that evolve in the last 5 years to going back to that personal touch, that face-to-face, that engagement. And that's honestly how I prefer. I love texting. Don't get me wrong. I love the convenience and the ability to multitask. But ultimately, I like that connection with my client. And I really feel like it's such, not only is real estate the probably single largest investment you'll ever make in your life, it's also the most emotional investment. You don't go in generally, you don't go in and buy a car and get all emotional over it. You do a house because it's either where you're starting memories or you're leaving memories behind, or there's always something. And it's inevitable that every property I ever put on the market, I always counsel my clients, so you know what, that day we go on is going to be an emotional day for you. No, 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 I'm fine. I'm ready to move this house. Nope, you aren't. And the minute that comes on, it's inevitable that I get that call. Wow, I didn't know I was going to feel this way. You said I was going to, but I didn't feel it. So I don't know how we could be, I don't know how we could go to that impersonal, which that's what electronics to me are. They're very impersonal. They put that barrier between that connection that you can have, actually engaging with somebody one-on-one. So I don't know that I think that we need to make any changes. Do we need to be more cautious? I mean, I think, realtors in general, we've always kind of done that. We meet strangers all the time. And so we have to be heightened, in our awareness and, our self-defense, especially as a woman and things like that. So I don't know that I think that it's going to be any lasting changes, but I think it definitely will make us stop and take a look at how we're doing business individually. But I don't think you can take that personal element out of it. I don't.
I would agree. And I do also agree that I think it's shifting. Before we get too far down this road, I want you guys to know that I'm the anomaly. This is where I store my clothes and score the occasional meal and sleep. And I am emotionally attached to my cars. To me, it's a piece of real estate. It's an investment. So be it. But gosh, it hasn't been that long. It just feels like it's been forever. But a couple of months ago, I saw Jen speak to a group of top producing loan originators in Texas, in Austin, Texas. And she actually iterated something to that effect about how the younger generations, millennials in particular, are again seeking out legitimate connection. They don't like the TV ads. They can't stand that, John Elway and Peyton Manning are hawking for a mortgage company in Denver. They know Peyton Manning and John Elway don't know anything about mortgages. They can't stand the funnel ads in social media and those kinds of things, that they are longing for something a little more interpersonal. Jen, am I defining that
Absolutely.
correctly?
I have a friend who just refinanced, and her only complaint about the whole process she went through is she could not get her mortgage broker on the phone. That was her only complaint. Everything went so smooth, but it made her question whether or not she would use this person again because they wouldn't talk to her on the phone. Like, we want to hear your voice. We want to know. I know, Adam, you're the king of the phone, so that's very strange to hear.
I have all kinds of questions about this conversation. Don't you work for a mortgage company?
Yeah, I was like, really? Because Adam's on the phone like 24/7, literally. But we want to know who you are as a person, not just what you do. We haven't even touched on social media really, Angie, but like, my belief is we're moving away from the 80% who you are and 20% what you do, and it's 90% who you are, which a lot of that means I need to be able to talk to you or meet you at a coffee shop and see what you order for coffee. Like, it's important. And it's
I've always said, if you can put me in front of you, you know what? That's all I need. I mean, it's getting that person off of that lead, and making that connection. Once I make that connection, 9 times out of 10, I'm golden. I mean, I'm not perfect, and I won't ever tout that, but most relationships, they're built on that. It's built on that connection.
Absolutely.
They are. That's true. And as always, Angie, we expected it. A half hour whips by. It disappears so quickly when we start delving into really solid conversation about, certainly about the state of the world. And boy, there is no shortage of content on things we could be talking about right now with what is going on in the world. But I do want to thank you for joining us. I know that it's not easy to get you to come down out of the hills and spend 30 minutes of very valuable time with us.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you. And Jen, of course, thank you for everything that you do in getting all of this organized. And for those of you watching, if you'd like more information about Just the Tips, if you want to be a guest on the show, if you'd like to see previous episodes, if you want to catch our weekly little tip video blog, trying to think what other information is in your text code. Jen, if you want a copy of Just the Tips, the book I wrote on lead generation ideas and tactics, by all means, use that text code at the bottom of your screen. Text tips to 63566. Angie, I'm going to run our extra. Don't go anywhere. For the rest of you, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.